Wherever we are, is, always will be Aboriginal land. And for the University of Melbourne, we acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, pay our respects to their elders past and present, acknowledge the relationship between people and country, and acknowledge country itself. You might like to put in the chat which country you're on today so that others know where you're coming from. Hello and welcome to this information session about Melbourne Social Equity Institute's Community Fellows Program. For those of you who don't know, my name's Jo Barraket and I'm the Director of the Institute. I'm speaking with you briefly at this session, and then I'll be handing over to the Director of the Community Fellows Program, Charlene Edwards. So we're really delighted to have so many of you demonstrating an interest in what we consider to be the jewel in the crown of Melbourne Social Equity Institute's activities. And apart from those of you who've managed to be here online today, there's at least another 60 people who've registered to get the recording for this session. So we're really delighted that so many people are keen and interested. Super quickly, just want to explain a little bit to you about what Melbourne Social Equity Institute is and what we do, and then we'll hear primarily about the Community Fellows Program, and you'll have opportunities to ask questions about the process for applying. So Melbourne Social Equity Institute exists primarily to create a fairer world through research that makes a difference. That's probably the best way we can describe ourselves. We're a virtual institute at the University of Melbourne, and that means that we don't have a huge number of people in our core team, but we do a lot of work across the university and also between the university and the wider world in our areas of focus. The areas of focus that you can see on the image there are gender equity, health equity, migration and mobility, inclusive and distributive economies, and then we have an enabling theme around digital access and equity. They're the key areas of research that the network focus on in what we do in our pursuits of a fairer world through research that makes a difference. But I do want to emphasise that with the Community Fellows Program, it's the only program in which you don't have to squarely align with these themes. So you've got freedom to tell us rather than we tell you what matters in the work that you do. But the thing that binds us together in MSCI, and which we'd love to see, and well, the Community Fellows Program is an example of, but we'd love to see in your work, is a commitment to community engaged and co-productive research. So that's the thing across all the different, really a huge range of topics that we focus on, being engaged with community and being co-productive both across sectors and within disciplines is what defines what we do. So Melbourne Social Equity Institute is one of 5 interdisciplinary research institutes of the University of Melbourne. We've been around since 2012 and we're still going strong. This is just a quick list of the other interdisciplinary research institutes. There's, apart from us, Melbourne Energy Institute, Melbourne Disability Institute, the Indigenous Knowledge Institute and Biodiversity Institute. And we are proud to be engaged with every University of Melbourne faculty and the diverse activities of the university, which is a pretty large place. But that just gives you a little bit of background on where the Community Fellows Program is positioned. And now I'm going to hand over to Charlene to get on with the real issues, which is about the program itself.
Thanks, Jo. And I'd just like to echo Jo's thanks to all of you for coming along today to hear more about the program. And I'd also like to acknowledge that we're on the lands of the Wurundjeri people and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So as you would have seen in our call for applications, we have 12 community fellowships that we're offering to start in early 2025, and the projects will go for between 12 and 18 months. So we expect projects to wrap up in about mid-2026. We are, for the first time, we are looking to really support a small cohort of fellows from the Golden Valley region. The university has a campus there and a commitment to working regionally and with organisations in that space. And 2 of the fellows are funded and supported by our cousin institute, the Melbourne Disability Institute. So projects, as you can see here, should have a disability lens and seek to understand matters that are important to people with disabilities. People with disabilities are highly encouraged to apply for this opportunity. So we piloted this program in 2016, and as you might have seen in the call, we are inviting applications for our sixth cohort of community fellowships. It is a competitive application process purely because it is, it's a limited opportunity. We only have 12 fellowships, so we need to really be able to support fellows and organisations that we feel that we can maximise our contribution as a university to those organisations. There is a $7,000 grant, which goes somewhat to, we know it doesn't fully cover time buyout for most people, but it goes somewhat to allowing some time release. Plus a lot of in-kind support as well from the academic mentors and the program of research training that we put together as well. Coupled with that, there's a modest research grant that we provide to support you to actually undertake the research. So that could be for participant remuneration if you're doing interviews or focus groups, a bit of travel, that type of thing. So the projects are for the benefit of your community organisation and typically last between 200 and 350 hours over 12 to 18 months. That really depends on the complexity of the project. And there's fairly regular contact with an academic mentor. So that could be one of the first things that happens between a fellow and a mentor is deciding on what best suits the two of you to meet together and how regularly that should be. So these are the types of community organisations that we've supported in the past. We're not limited to this, but when I say community organisations, they're generally not-for-profit or social enterprise, but they're organisations that are run for the benefit of community and seek to serve local communities. So peak bodies, service organisations, sporting organisations and arts organisations. We have supported schools in the past, government funded schools and community legal centres as well. So in terms of eligibility, there is there is a lot of information on our website, but fellows need to be Victorian based, so you can work for an organisation that has a national remit, but fellows need to be based in Victoria in order to spend time on the University of Melbourne Parkville campus and to be able to really contribute and gain from a cohort-based experience. Currently employed at your organisation with the right to work in Australia, so we are unable to support volunteers of community-based organisations. We have in the past, from our experience, they're the least likely to, if we do have any attrition or people not finishing projects, it's tended to be people who've been engaged as volunteers within their organisations. And as I said before, we have limited numbers of fellowships, and that's we really do want to ensure that we are supporting people who are able to take on the opportunity. So small to medium-sized organisations, so up to 199 employees, and we count that as an FTE, so the full-time equivalent. So you might have, people job sharing or part-time, but it's 199 FTEs. And your organisation must be incorporated and hold insurance to the value of 10 million public liability and 2 million professional indemnity insurance. Now, that sounds like a lot, but most, even very small organisations, tend to have this level of coverage. And your organisation needs to support your application and are committed to supporting you to complete the fellowship project. We don't require any research experience, but we do need to see that you've got the professional capacity to undertake the project and the work that you're seeking to do. So we do have some exclusions. Because the Community Fellows Program really is designed to be a capacity building initiative, we won't support applicants who already have PhDs or substantive research positions within their organisations. And that's primarily because we think that person should have the capacity to undertake research independent of the fellowship. So organisations with in-house research and evaluation capacity. Now, what I'm meaning by this is sort of large teams of people with dedicated research and evaluation roles. not, I don't mean so one person that might have a research and evaluation component as part of, a very large and diverse position description. And your organisation, we won't consider any applications, no matter how good they are, from organisations that were part of our 2023-2024 cohort. This is because I've said this before, but it's a limited opportunity, and we really do want to share and distribute the opportunity as equitably as we can. So benefits for participants, we've over the course of our 5 cohorts, the one thing that a lot of our fellows will say is that the program enabled them to step outside of the daily demands of their work, and to give them some thinking and reflection space. We do even offer fellows hot desking access at the university, just if they need to physically get away from their organisations so that they can have some space to think, and being immersed in an academic environment with academic mentoring can really help with people being able to level up in their thinking and reflect on what they're wanting to do in their organisations. So we do have a lot of case studies on our websites from previous participants that you might want to take a look at. I'm just going to play a little video from our recent celebration event with our 2023-24 cohorts, our 5th cohort, and this was in July.
We are delighted this afternoon for you to have joined us to celebrate the achievements and activities of the 2023-2024 Community Fellows cohort. The thing that binds the network of Melbourne Social Equity Institute together is 2 things. One, we exist to create a fairer world through research that makes a difference. And second, the work that we do is characterised by a deep commitment to community engaged and co-productive ways of knowing and learning together. And there is no better exemplar of that than the Community Fellows program.
We'd noticed a presence of a deficit narrative throughout quantitative data, showing higher rates of adverse health, cultural and socioeconomic outcomes with Stolen Generations community compared to First Nations people and families who had not experienced removal. But there has been a lack of in-depth qualitative research telling stories behind this data.
Being part of this program has meant that me and Megan, who I am co-researching with, have had the time to go outside of our usual day-to-day practice and stop and really listen to our community and understand who we work with and for, and create solutions that are evidence-based and based on lived experience.
It was really important for us to undertake this research. For me, I was strongly motivated by the lack of sort of publicly available data and nuanced insight into specific cohorts of young people in the labour market.
The Community Fellows program enables and creates an environment that's both intellectually rigorous but truly supportive of folk like myself that work in small organisations that want to generate impact.
My name's Georgia and I am with an organisation called Birth of Humankind. We're quite a small organisation, so it can be a bit difficult for us to find the funds and the resources to be able to do extended projects outside of our core business. So it has meant that we were able to kind of invest and find some time and some resources to be able to do a bigger project that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to do.
And we have completed the project and we have actually started to implement our new monitoring and evaluation program. So we do have some really good results coming through already, which is really exciting.
Participation can be transformative to both the fellows, the university mentors, the academics, can I say the university itself.
Opportunities like this are hard to come by, especially for not-for-profit organisations like ours. Very grateful to Melbourne Social Equity Institute for providing such a space.
It's felt really inspiring to be around other community-led people.
The biggest takeaway for me is to be able to work in an interdisciplinary space where we're surrounded by so many different practices and approaches, but all underpinned with this real love and motivation for
more equitable and socially just world.
This is not the end, it's just the beginning.
Okay, so just moving on to expectations of fellows. So being able to commit a decent amount of time to work on a project over 12 to 18 months. So it really does depend on the complexity of the work that you want to do. So I would say in our last cohort, Georgia, who from Birth for Humankind, she was able to complete her project within about 200 hours and 12 months because she didn't need to gain ethics approval to undertake the work. At the 350 hours, that is where you're maybe collecting data from people and needing ethics clearance. So, and that's inclusive of, those hours are inclusive of the research training and cohort-based activities as well. So a really key component of that building the cohort is our 3-day orientation. And we've got the dates here, so the 12th, 13th and 14th of February 2025. So this is a really, it's pretty critical that fellows, or if you're thinking of applying to the program, that you're able to make these dates. It really sets the tone for the cohort, but also it's like an induction to the university as well. So there's some practical things that need to happen on that day, those days. So you need to be able to participate in the research training provided. And we also have a sort of midterm work in progress workshop that's in person, where the fellows will talk about where they're at with their work and get feedback from the rest of the cohort, and the end of program celebration, which you've just seen a little video of. So moving on. So research training has involved sort of library skills and lit reviews. There's a very large emphasis on ethics in community research. We have had sessions on using and making sense of quantitative data sets, so publicly available data sets, for example. Conducting focus groups and interviews, and we do a lot of practice with each other on developing some of those skills before you kind of go out into the wild. Developing your ethics applications. So for people that do need to undertake ethics, to gain ethics approval to do the work, we run a 2-day boot camp to help, get the majority of that written, or at least you thinking about the ethical implications of the work that you're setting out to do. Analysing qualitative data and translating that research for impact. We do tend to design the training to suit the needs of the cohort. So depending on what project you're wanting to do, we quite often will have specialist or different types of research training. And we do try and facilitate any requests for training as well as best as we can. So some examples of outputs and impacts. We've had fellows that have undertaken sort of large scoping reports and lit reviews, developed advocacy reports. We've had fellows that have developed resources and toolkits, either for their internal organisational use or externally as well, to share some of the resources that they've developed. We've had fellows who have undertaken program evaluations of their services and supports, and developing a monitoring evaluation framework for internal organisational work as well. We've seen some of our fellows go on to do amazing things and make a real impact with the work that that they've been able to undertake through their fellowships. So we've seen fellows who've developed new services or improved existing services within their organisations. There's been changes in policy and practice stemming from evidence-based advocacy. The development of internal evaluation capacity, that really knowing some of our fellows from previous cohorts where they've really been able to support their organisation to build that capacity across the whole organisation. And sector-wide strengthening due to knowledge sharing as well. So next step, so developing your application. So the application isn't that onerous if anyone's taken a look at it, but we do really want to know who you are, what you do and what your organisation does, where you're working, and the why, like what is the project you're wanting to do and why is it important? The how isn't as important. So one of the first things we ask fellows and their academic mentors to do is co-design a realistic and feasible project that can be undertaken in that time period. There will be discussion with that academic mentor about outputs and what you're wanting to achieve, and they'll help you figure out what the steps are to get you to that point. In terms of mentors, you don't have to have identified a mentor to work with. We can do that, but you might want to have a look at who is at the University of Melbourne, and people that you might want to work with. So the Find an Expert database, that the link is there, is a really useful tool to help you find academic expertise within the university. We have found that we don't usually have a problem recruiting academic mentors onto this program. They gain a lot from the experience as well. Jo's mentored fellows in the past and can attest to that. But you might, if there's someone that you really like the look of, you might want to reach out to them and see if they might be willing to be an academic mentor if your project's successful, because it can help to have them give you some comments or feedback on the ideas that you have. And again, you must have organizational support. It's really, part of the reason that we're wanting to support community fellows and their organizations is for that capacity building, and it's really difficult to undertake a project of this scale and size if you don't have organizational support and if it's not, aligned in some way to the work that you're doing. So it is, there are 3 stages to the application process. So the first one is the online application form, which you'll find on our website. And as I said, it's not that onerous, but we are asking for, we're looking for compelling projects. Like we want to know what the issues that you're grappling with are, and your initial ideas about what you want to do about that. We'll do an internal shortlisting and try and identify suitable mentors at that point. The main thing is we have had projects that we've loved and not been able to find mentors for, and that just means that we're not able to support the projects. But we'll give feedback at that time. And then the shortlisted applicants will be invited for interviews, and we usually ask the academic mentors to join us for that as well. We will aim to notify everyone by the end of November 2024. That then gives you sort of the summer break to think about it, get excited about it, and then we start in February with the orientation session. Applications close at 5 p.m. on Monday, the 21st of October. So for us, when we're looking at the applications, we're really looking at all these ingredients that make up a successful project. So the applicant capability, we do ask for you to attach a CV to your application form. The organisational need and their support for the project, and that there's a demonstrated community need and rationale for the project as well. It's our job to find you an academic mentor, and we're also looking to support fellows and their organisations where there's an obvious alignment with the university. And for us to be able to know how working with the university can help you and your organisation as well.